Welcome to this virtual concert hall. Hello, Australia. Hey, India. What's going on in the UK? Hello, my name is Dana Swarbrick, and today I'm going to tell you about an exploratory study examining the usage of mobile accelerometry to measure movements of a virtual concert audience. So, this past year, I've looked to examine the question, what virtual concert characteristics affect social connection and feeling moved in audiences? And I found that live stream concerts produced more connectedness than pre-recorded concerts. And through an exploratory analysis, I looked at what other variables might predict social connectedness and feeling moved, which is scientifically labeled kamamuta. And we found that certain concert characteristics, such as when the performers interact with the audience and the perceived audio quality, personal characteristics of the participant, like attention and empathy levels, influence it. And also genre and web platform can both influence connectedness. So specifically, dance and electronica led to more connectedness than classical, and Facebook led to more connectedness than YouTube. And also, being a fan of the performer made people feel more moved while watching their concert. So I got to thinking, what moves us? In past research, I actually looked at how live concert audiences move. Here is a little animation of some motion capture data. Last year, we hosted something called an algorave. So what is an algorave? An algorave features a live coding performer who programs or live codes dance music. So here's an example of the renowned Renick Bell from the concert we hosted. Here is an example of Khoparzi, who is the other performer at the concert we hosted. So that's just to give you a little taste of the kind of music that was being played. And here is an example of how some participants might dance to it. On the left, you see Solveig Søbø, who was hosting the event, and on the right, that's me in the control room streaming the event. At least this is what we had hoped for. So this event actually served as the premiere of the new MusicLab App, which is an application that participants could download onto their phones, and it recorded from the inertial measurement unit of participant smartphones. So from the phone, you can get accelerometry data, gyroscope, and we also got geolocation. And here's an example along the top of the raw motion data, and you can see how this corresponds to the XYZ planes on participants' phones, as well as you could take two of these and plot them in 2 dimensions and get the transverse, frontal, and sagittal planes as seen here. So this event was super fun. It was great pleasure working with Khoparzi and Renick Bell. And in addition to the performances, the concert featured a panel discussion and data DJing done by Chadi Ardem. And the experimental setup was as follows. Participants downloaded the MusicLab app onto their phones. They filled out a pre-survey or pre-experiment survey on the phone, and they watched the concert on YouTube as it was streamed on YouTube. The pre-survey included things like demographics, their prior musical and algorave experience, and musician status. And then they watched the concert, and we encouraged them to stand during the concert and to place the phone on their upper body. And they filled out a concert form, or a form after the concert as well, which included questions on their concert appraisal and the emotions and connectedness they felt. So here you can see the overview of all the participants. So there were 19 participants, and each of these along the top is a different part of the experiment. So whether they filled out the intro survey, if they had any motion data during Renick's or Khoparzi's concerts, whether they filled out the outro survey, and if they then become a viable participant. So as you can see, our numbers are super low. There were only 8 people that could be potentially viable participants, and 6 participants who could be viable participants for Khoparzi. So this kind of eliminates the ability to do any statistical inference. However, I tried following data analysis to simply figure out what can I offer still looking at this data instead of doing statistical inference. So the reason we possibly had such low participation is not just because there was low attendance, because we did have about 30 people who showed up, but actually that there were bugs in the app. So the iPhone version didn't work as well as the Android. Unfortunately, we're still working to improve the app to be able to push the iPhone version to the background, because actually participants' phones screens had to stay on and on the app in order for the motion recording to work. And we also actually had several data loss events, and one of the performers' data was lost. So we don't have Khoparzi's motion data. So sometimes research sucks. But here's a nice summary of participant demographics. So based on the geolocation data we received, here's 17 points, and they're all across the world and look super beautiful on this map. And there were 4 in Oslo, which is where I'm based and where our research group is based. And so we had in the audience, there were 2 fans of Renick Bell and 3 fans of Khoparzi. So again, not enough fans to warrant any ability to look at differences between fans and non-fans. And the age was approximately middle-aged, and there were 15 men and 4 women. And here is summary data from the post-concert survey. So here you see that people responded to questions on a scale from 1 to 7. And in general, the responses for Khoparzi's performance were higher than the responses for Renick. And it's based on approximately equal number of people. And these questions included: how danceable was the music? How familiar was it? How much did you enjoy it? How much did you move to the beat? How much did it look like the performer was moving to the beat? Did you feel connected to the performer or to other audience members? Did you feel touched? What was your attention level? Did you feel like the performer interacted with the audience, or how much did the performer interact with the audience? And then also, did you notice the presence of other audience members? We also asked people to report where their phone was positioned. And so everyone put it on their upper body, except for 2 who said other, but we are not really sure where they put it, and as compared to their lower body. And we also asked how frequently or how much they stood or sat during the performance. And I just grouped these into 2 groups because no one was in the middle. Everybody was leaning to one side. So we had approximately equal numbers sitting and standing. So this is something that's going to be useful for some analysis, perhaps. And so we also looked at whether people were aware of the recording or if they changed their behavior. And we found that people were generally not that aware and did not say that they changed their behavior at all, but there were a few that did report that it greatly affected them. So now let's dive into the data analysis. So what was a great take-home message from this virtual concert was that remote motion measurement works. So here's an example of just 1-minute segment of raw data from our 13th participant. And it's coming in at around 60 hertz, but it was a variable sampling frequency. So we interpolated it to 10 hertz, and then we filtered it to our frequency range of interest, which is around the beats of music. So between 0.5 and 4.9 hertz. And we normalized it as well. But I was so interested in thinking about, what could this audience look like if I was able to time align all their signals. And to do this, what we told participants was when you heard the first sound from the performer, to pick up your phone and shake the phone and then to place it on your body. And so using this signal that was quite noisy, I was able to time align the motion signals, and here's an animation of what the participant looked like during, or what the audience looked like during a segment of Khoparzi's concert. So you can see that the data as somebody, for example, freezes and then disappears, is a little bit messy. So there's some data loss events even within the participants that we were able to get. But you can see some of these people actually moving to the music, and it looks awesome. So I was surprised to find that there were no existing animation functions for IMU data before, or at least when I was looking. So this may be a function that's potentially useful to other researchers, and you can find it in the GitHub for this project. But it does require an alignment method, and I'll talk more about that soon. And what's exciting is this motion can be compared to music. On the top here, you see quantity of motion figures, and the bottom, the relation to the audio onset strength. And also you can look at periodicity. So here's an example of a short time Fourier transform using a 10-second window. And we do see increased activity at the beat frequencies you'd expect. So the lowest here is at the whole note level, then the quarter note is up here, and the half note's down here. So, and this is also represented in a periodogram analysis where the top period in the X direction is 40, the top in the Y was 160, and the top in the Z is 40, and the music actually did occur at 160 beats per minute. But I wanted to look at, was there a difference between sitting and standing? And I just did a quick quantity of motion trend analysis and plotted comparing people who said that they were sitting or not sitting in Khoparzi's performance. So it looks like the person who was standing did actually show more quantity of motion than people who were, not sitting. Not standing. And then unfortunately, a few people didn't report. So this indicates that might indicate that there are differences between sitting and standing. So now the question becomes, is this data high quality? So we actually did a comparison with a high resolution motion capture system where we compared the MusicLab app to the QualAssist motion capture as well as a respiration belt. The respiration analysis is still ongoing, but we did see high correlations between the mobile accelerometry and each of the markers of the mocap system, and that you are able to distinguish the conditions using both the motion capture and the phone's information. So this indicates that there's good correlation between mobile IMU and the mocap. But how would you synchronize the data? So here's just an example of what the app looks like, and in order to make it record, you press start capture and it gives you some information. This is the Android version because you are able to move it to the background. And here is what we're now recommending for synchronization. As you can see here at the right side, it's a shake signal, but to answer the question of where does the shake start, it becomes a little challenging because evidently it's not the highest peak that it's the start of. It's actually probably before is when the participant is picking up that phone and then shaking it. And so this becomes a little bit challenging to analyze, and I ended up just because of the small sample size going through by hand and pointing in the plot of where the shake started. But one alternative method might be actually to have the participants put the phone on a flat surface and to tap in rhythm to a steady beat in the auditory signal. And so here's an example. You do actually see the taps even when that phone is on a flat surface. And therefore this might be a better way to synchronize any other technology with the phone. And that is assuming that your participants can tap in time, though. And we also tested differences between if we were to try to measure respiration on a chest, which would be the best position for the phone. So we found that the higher position actually had higher correlations with the motion capture system than the lower position. So Finn Upham is conducting ongoing research to examine whether this app can be used to measure respiration. So what's next for me, though? I am personally interested in what aspects of a real live concert facilitate social connection in Kamamuta. And I would like to thank my supervisor, Jona Voskowski, and the InSync Lab. Ritmo, which is the best center a PhD candidate could ever ask for, and my collaborators, Kayla, Finn, Chadi, and Alexander. Thank you. If you'd like to reach out to me, please email me. I would love to help you if you wanted to use the app in your own research. Thank you so much. Have a great conference.